Hi everybody, welcome to Sitecore Symposium 2021 and to Isuzu Ute Australia and Codehouse's breakout session, Personalising the Path to Purchase. In this session we're going to see how Isuzu Ute Australia uses personalisation to curate key steps to business conversion. I'm Greg Baxter, the Experience Director at Codehouse. I've been working with the Sitecore Experience platform for over 14 years now, and since leaving Sitecore, I've been awarded the Sitecore Strategy MVP for the last 4 years running. While I was at Sitecore, I was the founding SBOSS Director across Greater Asia, so I worked with Sitecore customers and partners from Australia through to China. I'm thrilled to introduce Leo Blanco from Isuzu Ute Australia, and I'll just hand over to Leo to do an introduction.
Thanks, Greg. So my name is Leo. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager for Isuzu Ute Australia. I'm part of a very talented digital marketing team, overseeing all the digital channels for the brand in Australia. I've been in digital for just under 10 years now, and I've worked across a number of B2B and consumer brands across all the spectrum of digital marketing.
Fantastic. So let's take you on the Isuzu Ute Australia journey. So I'll work through the agenda just very quickly. We'd love to understand and to explain to you some of the Sitecore and Isuzu Ute background story, and then take you through the opportunity that we've seen and that we've taken advantage of. We'll then have a really high-level view of the personalisation strategy and then take you through our approach, learning, and next steps. So I think without too much more ado, Leo, we might just move forward.
Yeah, so a good place to start, Greg, would be the understanding of the Isuzu Ute journey with Sitecore. So we primarily use Sitecore as a content publishing platform, and we really invested in the platform because of its capabilities. For us, the personalisation engine is one of the key areas that we see a lot of potential for us to use, and it would allow us to create some really unique and really high value and meaningful experiences for anyone that's interested in our vehicles. So for the way that they engage with our brand in our website, as they progress from showing interest into a vehicle, but also as they progress through their path to purchasing a vehicle. Of course, part of the thinking as well for us was maximising the opportunity to engage and nurture every single user. And for us, we wanted to make sure that when someone is showing an interest in our vehicles, we cater to them by creating those personalized experiences. One of the things that we wanted to do is, obviously, if someone is interested in buying a vehicle, they can't do that through us. So we primarily focus on generating leads for our dealer network.
Fantastic. And like a lot of customers who use Sitecore, you really want to get some ROI out of the platform investment as well. And really being able to boost conversions and execute on nurture is a primary way to make sure that you get the best out of the platform.
Correct.
All right, let's step further into it. So, around the opportunity, like a lot of Sitecore customers, the entry level into personalisation is undertaken in a pilot kind of metaphor. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Personalisation can be a mighty big ball of string, and it can become quite rapidly a boil the ocean kind of project. And it's a really wise brand that steps back and decides to take this in smaller chunks. And one of the reasons that they want to do that is not just to be able to evidence a project outcome quicker, but it's also a great way to gain proof points for management and the executive. So smaller projects get executed faster, management see the outcomes faster, and this really creates appetite for doing more long-reaching optimization.
That's right, and for us it was really important in those initial conversations to take the approach that we wanted to walk before we started running. We want to be familiar with how Sitecore personalisation actually works, iron out any kinks in that development journey, and also making sure that we can present, like you said, value to the senior management team on the personalisation experience, and also investing more of our development budget in something like that allow us to do more personalisation and create those experiences.
Fantastic. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next slide. So Isuzu Ute Australia and Codehouse decided that the best way to do this was to undertake an iterative approach. And really, we decided just to execute personalisation in the first instance on the hero placeholder. This is a really high value piece of screen real estate, and it's a really powerful place to put calls to action to steer people down through the conversions that are useful to them and useful to the business. We had to do a little bit of experience editor remediation. It's not uncommon for us to come across sites where not every placeholder is enabled for personalisation. And rather than run a really big project to optimise the site right across the board, we decided we'd focus just on that one hero placeholder so we could get those quick runs on the board. So overall, we agreed to go for a modest start, and we selected a placeholder with the highest impact. We wanted to keep the budget and scope really small as well, in line with a pilot kind of philosophy. Incredibly importantly, we wanted to use conversion metrics and key points that were really easily measurable. So we can track which users or which visitors convert coming from the personalized carousel, as opposed to those that come from calls to action organically scattered through the site. This really also empowers Isuzu Ute staff to learn and grow capability in a way that isn't overly burdensome and too complex. And it's just a really great way to onboard capability.
So, Greg, buying a vehicle is a decision that takes time, and it's not an easy one either. We know it's important for us to nurture our prospects and direct them through key information that actually facilitates that path to purchase and the journey along the way. We have some critical information and tools on our website that we want them to engage with. And rather than waiting for them to actually find that information or see those tools, we want to use a hero element like our homepage slider to get them to the information quicker. We focus on three key areas for that user journey, utilizing a lot of our understanding of the user journey and analytics. And we focus on the brochure, so getting people to download a brochure, getting them to join our mailing list is important as well as part of that journey. And ultimately, as they get closer to making a purchase decision and building their dream car, we want them to go through that path to purchase and actually get in touch with the dealer by engaging with all of these different elements on our site.
Okay, that's a fantastic strategy, but we also have this last arrow, which is the 3-view disengage. And the idea behind that is that we don't want to show people calls to action that they repeatedly see that they don't engage with. So it's a really nice decay strategy to allow us to remove personalization over a number of visits if it's clear that a customer is not going to engage. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we walk through the how we did it.
And one thing that I didn't mention, Greg, is obviously what triggers this personalization and the difference between someone that's interested in an MUX and someone that's interested in a D-Max Ute.
Yeah.
So at both points, as you see on our top menu, we've got two very key different streams. So the personalization kicks off when someone visits one of those particular vehicle overview pages.
Fantastic. So as Leo said, what we really want to do is direct people to key conversion points, and we wanted to surface the calls to action that may be buried deeper in the site. So the brochure request and the build to quote are both very sales orientated tools, but the ability to subscribe for a newsletter gives Isuzu Ute Australia the ability to really engage and keep an intimate relationship with prospects long term. So Leo, do you want to talk us through the brochure request phase?
Yeah, of course. So this is really where the personalization efforts kick off. So what you see on our screen there is our a standard slider. And let's just say, for example, someone actually visits the D-Max page. They would actually visit the overview page where they see more information. So at any point they come back to the home page, they will then start to see this slider, which actually has a very specific call to action on our download brochure. And this is important because the user, for some reason, decided that they didn't want to continue their journey. So we utilize a very high impact and high visibility element like the homepage slider to re-engage them along that user journey. So bringing that message forefront to get them to download a brochure to start that journey towards purchasing a vehicle. This is one of the most important parts in actually kicking off the personalization effort.
Fantastic. And of course, you capture the prospect's details very early on in the piece, but that might not be enough to really facilitate the kind of engagement that we want long term. So the next goal in our goal ladder or path to purchase is around the D-mail subscription. Leo, maybe you can talk us through this.
Yeah, so once we've determined that someone's actually interested in this vehicle, we know for a fact that this person is more likely to actually engage with us and closer to buying that vehicle. So if you click along, there we go. So once they've met that criteria, or someone has actually downloaded a brochure, the slider then turns into this slide instead, which is a call to action to get them to sign up to our newsletter. And again, this is just another way for us to continue that conversation with that user, stay top of mind as they go along. Because as I mentioned earlier, the purchase of a vehicle doesn't happen overnight. So for us, it's important to continue that conversation and engage with them so that we can continue to be top of mind along that journey for them to purchase a vehicle.
Fantastic. And of course, you're right. It is a long-term decision that people make. I really love how this feature gives people the ability to sign up for deals as well. So everybody loves a deal. So not just are they able to get latest news from around the brand, they're able to sign up to a stream that shows them, really good opportunities to purchase. Of course, a newsletter call to action is not very useful if you've already signed up to a newsletter, Leo. So we did construct the personalisation so that it looked historically into somebody's conversions and then skips this step if they've already subscribed.
That's right, Greg. And that was a big part of the personalisation effort, is to actually make sure that anyone that has already signed up to these deals, they're not receiving a message that is sort of telling them something they don't want to see or something they have already done. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that anyone that has already signed up to our newsletter or as part of our database actually skips this step altogether. So they actually go into the next and the final stage of our personalisation,
which is the build and quote stage. So if they've signed up for the newsletter, it goes from brochure request directly to build and quote. So we don't want to present a call to action to somebody who's already converted on that goal, because it really shows that perhaps the brand isn't listening to what they've undertaken or really acknowledged the relationship they've had with you in the past. But now we're at the very pointy end of the path to purchase. So let's just talk a little bit about the build and quote tool and about what triggers that.
So that's the final step in the personalisation effort. And for us, is when someone's already shown a very high interest in the vehicle because they've converted along the path of the personalisation. And what we want to do at this stage is actually get them to that final stage of really personalising the vehicle that they're after. So we know that they're interested in the D-Max, for example. We want them to engage with the build and quote, which allows them to actually create the dream vehicle that they're after. And a part of this process allows us to capture all the information that they're interested in, very minute and granular detail about the exact vehicle that they're after. And there's two conversion points at the end of this process. There's one, the ability for the customer to actually generate a quote that they can either email themselves and keep for themselves. But more importantly, they can generate a lead directly to their local dealer with all the specifications of the vehicle that they've just built using this tool. Now, this is really powerful because it actually creates a very sort of tangible conversation with that dealer, so that when the dealer receives the information, they know exactly what vehicle that person is after, as opposed to just a generic lead that they receive in an email or CRM. Yeah. So this is really important because it makes the experience a lot more, I guess, beneficial for the user, and it's a lot more positive experience when you're starting a conversation of the vehicle that you're after rather than starting from scratch. And that's really important for us to get them to this tool, because it allows us to really understand exactly what they're after and get that conversation going to actually getting closer to purchasing that vehicle that they've been dreaming of for quite some time.
Yeah, I really love this because it takes a prospect from discovery through aspiration and then through to conversion. So I love that you can select the kind of vehicle that you want, the kind of drive that you want, the colors that you want, and all of the accessories, the snorkels and all of the great things that you can use to customize your Isuzu Ute. And it ends at a point where you can elect to email the quote to yourself which is obviously a very private move, or it lets you take that next step and request a conversation with a dealer. It's just a really seamless process from discovery, aspiration through to conversion.
That's right. It's a natural progression, as we talked earlier, it's a user journey. Someone that is showing a small interest in our vehicle, right down to someone that has personalized an Isuzu vehicle that is unique to them.
And of course, we have the 3-view disengage. And the idea behind this, of course, is not to beat people over the head with personalization. So, Leo, just want to step us through, how this particular function works.
Yeah, of course, this is a key part of any personalization project. I think we need to be conscious of knowing when to pull out of personalization and when to stop using a message or putting a message in front of a user that's clearly not interested. So for us, this is a critical part of the personalization journey, is to be able to build gates where we can actually pull the personalization out if someone's clearly not interested. So one of the rules that we've built into the personalization is if someone visits or sees a personalization or is shown the personalization more than 3 times, that personalization will automatically disappear. And what will happen is the element reverts back to the standard hero component, which is what you can see on screen now. And for us, that's really important because we don't want to be taking personalization into the annoying space. We want to use personalizations to really help users and make that experience a really positive one, not an annoying one where they actually, it detracts from the brand experience.
Amen to that. So finally, we come to the learnings, and it's been a really interesting journey around doing this. And the one thing that really became apparent is what may seem simple can hide logic, business requirements, and platform complexity. So there was quite a bit of hidden personalization logic in this process. For example, Isuzu Ute Australia recently launched the all-new MUX, and it's a super cool vehicle. But we couldn't just write a rule that said, oh, if anybody has subscribed or downloaded a brochure in the past, don't show them this, because they may have downloaded a brochure on the MUX, a year ago. And we want them to be able to have the opportunity to download the new brochure. So we couldn't just use a particular out-of-the-box rule. We had to extend that rule to say anybody who's downloaded a brochure prior to the last 3 months should be shown this piece of personalization. And it was a little bit similar to the Dmail subscription thing, where we didn't want to show a newsletter subscription if somebody was already subscribed. So quite rapidly, when you think this through, there are a lot of logic holes that you can go down, and it just seemed to attract new business logic as we thought it through further and further. We also found some platform things. We needed to do some forms adjustments. We needed to do a couple of really small, admittedly necessary fixes to make all of this hang together. But, throughout the journey, we found ourselves having to reframe bits of this in this what-if flowchart scenario. And to be honest, we probably could have done this a little better right at the start. I personally don't think we thought through every use case early enough. Which really led us to step back and revise what we were doing. And if there's one takeaway that's sort of really, really important, is that personalization is a fantastic diagnostic tool for the infrastructure and code health of your site. Sitecore personalization requires a well-instrumented and well-built website performing on adequate infrastructure to work really well. So there were a couple of things that caught us up, and there were a couple of things that made us rethink, but we got there in the end, and it turned out to be a much more interesting journey than we thought it might have been when we first started. So Leo, what are the next steps?
So as you mentioned, Greg, we reframed a few times, but all of this really allowed us to know what to look for and think about the things that we need to look out for next time we kick off a personalization project. As we said at the beginning, the exercise is really about dipping our toe in the water and setting a foundation for us to maximize the opportunities and really get to understand the functionality of Sitecore when it comes to personalization. So we've achieved that. And one of the things that we took out of this is a lot of learnings that allowed us to really get to know the infrastructure on our website, the things that we need to look out for, and ultimately a lot of learnings that we can do more sophisticated projects in the future when it comes to personalization.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to moving into A/B testing and marketing automation, and then finally folding all of three of these disciplines into a real digital marketing powerhouse. And I think you have the kind of fan customers, and I think you have the kind of brand dominance to really make a significantly powerful website. Okay, thank you everybody for coming to our presentation. I hope you have a fantastic Symposium 2021. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg, and enjoy the rest of the show, Ron.
Okay, bye for now.